Moving into a new house was supposed to be the start of something beautiful. After years of apartment living, paper-thin walls, noisy neighbors, and the endless struggle to find parking, I finally found a home of my own. The neighborhood was quiet, the kind of place where you could sit on your porch with a glass of iced tea, wave to a passing neighbor, and feel at ease. A fresh start. Peace. That's all I wanted. But life, as I'd soon learn, had other plans. The property needed a little TLC. The yard had been left to grow wild by the previous owner, a jungle of weeds and overgrown hedges. The fence leaned so far to one side that I swore it would collapse with the next strong breeze. But none of that deterred me. I rolled up my sleeves, picked out some plants, and set to work. At first, things went smoothly. I'd see neighbors out walking their dogs or jogging and exchange polite smiles. A few even stopped to chat, welcoming me to the neighborhood. It felt like I'd made the right decision. Sure, there was an HOA in this community, and I'd heard stories. Aren't there always stories about HOAs? But I figured as long as I minded my own business, they'd leave me alone. The first time I heard her name was from my next-door neighbor, Marge, a lovely woman in her 70s with a sweet disposition. Marge shuffled over one morning as I was planting marigolds. "You've met Janet yet?" she asked, her voice tinged with something between curiosity and caution. "Janet?" I asked, brushing dirt from my gloves. "No, I don't think so." Marge nodded, glancing around as though Janet might materialize out of thin air. "You will. She's the HOA president. Likes to keep an eye on things." I chuckled, not thinking much of it. "I'll make sure my marigolds are up to standard." Marge didn't laugh. "Just don't let her push you around, okay?" That's when I first felt it. A small knot of unease in my stomach. I brushed it off. After all, how bad could she be? I was wrong. The answer came sooner than I expected. I was in the backyard, watering my new plants and mentally planning where to place the bird feeder when I heard a sharp knock on the front door. It wasn't the friendly tap-tap of a neighbor stopping by with cookies. This was the kind of knock that demanded attention. I opened the door to find a woman who looked like she'd stepped straight out of a catalog for suburban superiority. Perfectly coiffed hair, clipboard in hand, and a smile that felt more like a warning than a welcome. "Hello there," she chirped. "I'm Janet, president of the HOA." "Oh," I said, trying to match her enthusiasm. "Nice to meet you." Her eyes flicked past me, scanning my living room before settling back on my face. "I'm here for a quick inspection of your property." I blinked. "An inspection?" She nodded, her pen already poised over the clipboard. "It's part of our community standards. I'll need to check your garden, your fence, and anything else that might fall under HOA guidelines." A laugh escaped before I could stop it. "I'm sorry, but I'm not actually part of the HOA." Her smile tightened, like a rubber band about to snap. "Oh, but you live here. And living here means you're responsible for maintaining community standards." I stepped outside, closing the door behind me. "Janet, I don't think that's how it works. I didn't sign any agreement when I bought this house." She tilted her head, as if trying to figure out whether I was joking or just clueless. "Well," she said, her voice losing its sugary edge, "you should have. But that doesn't change the fact that I have the right to inspect any property in this neighborhood." That knot of unease tightened. "No, you don't. This is my property, and I'm asking you to leave." For a moment, I thought she might explode. Her face turned the color of a ripe tomato, and her grip on the clipboard tightened. "You can't just refuse an inspection," she snapped. "What do you think this is, a free-for-all?" "I think," I said, keeping my voice calm, "that you need to leave. Now." She huffed, clicking her pen furiously, like she was writing me up for a crime. "We'll see about this. You haven't heard the last of me." With that, she spun on her heel and marched off, her high heels clacking against the sidewalk. I watched her go, half expecting her to turn around and deliver one last threat. But she didn't. For a moment, I stood there, wondering if I'd just made an enemy of the wrong person. The next morning, I found it taped to my front door. A bright yellow violation notice. My garden, the notice claimed, was in violation of HOA guidelines. It went on to list a series of absurd complaints. The fence was too high, the plants were too close together, and the garden itself was apparently disruptive to community harmony. I stared at the notice, a mixture of disbelief and anger bubbling up inside me. I wasn't even part of the HOA. How could they fine me for something I wasn't even obligated to follow? I called my lawyer, Carl, a no-nonsense guy who didn't take kindly to people overstepping their bounds. He assured me this was nothing more than a scare tactic. "She's testing you," he said. "Stand your ground." I thought that would be the end of it, but Janet wasn't done. Over the next few days, I noticed her car driving past my house more frequently. Once, I caught her parked across the street, holding up her phone to take pictures of my yard. She wasn't even trying to be subtle. The first time, I waved, hoping to catch her off guard. She quickly turned her head and sped off. The second time, I just glared. It was unsettling, to say the least. My home, my sanctuary, no longer felt safe. Carl suggested I install security cameras. "If she's going to keep harassing you, we need evidence." I hated the idea of turning my home into a fortress, but I knew he was right. I ordered a simple setup online and had it installed the next day. Every angle of my property was now covered, and I felt a small sense of relief knowing that if Janet tried anything else, I'd have proof. A few days later, another letter arrived. This one wasn't yellow. It was typed, formal, and brimming with legal jargon. Janet was demanding that I attend an HOA meeting to discuss my violations and address the state of my property. The letter threatened legal action if I failed to comply. I laughed out loud. She was relentless, but I wasn't about to let her bully me. I wrote back, copying Carl on the email. My response was clear. I had no legal obligation to attend any meetings or follow any HOA rules. I also made it clear that if Janet continued to harass me, I would file a formal complaint. For a few days, things were quiet. No knocks on the door, no letters, no surveillance. I thought maybe, just maybe, Janet had realized I wasn't someone she could push around. But then I woke up one morning to find my backyard gate wide open. The lock had been cut,